Welcome back to the studio. I'm Alex Yemek. Now today I want to respond to a question. Someone say, what do we call poverty? Why do we say that Africa is poor, right? What is really poverty? What do we mean by that? I'm gonna give you 3 reasons why Africa is a poor continent. And that is also the definition of what poverty really is. The number 1 reason why we call third world countries poor countries, right, including the continent of Africa, is because of intellectual poverty, right? So poverty is not just the lack of money. In fact, the way I'm going to put it is that money does not necessarily mean that you're rich. The very fact that you have paper money doesn't necessarily mean that you're rich. Just think about it. If, for example, you have $10 million and the dollar is devalued, for example, right? Your $10 million becomes useless. You see that money itself is not riches. Poverty begins in your mind, in the intellect, right? A poor person is one who's intellectually poor. You can give that person a lot of money by hands. If he's not rich intellectually, he's definitely, I say definitely, going to lose that money. You see? So what makes countries poor? Why is it that we say Africa is a poor continent? People will say, well, we have natural resources. We have oil, we have, gold, diamond, or whatever, right? People will say that. But that on its own is not riches. Now, someone will say, how come? Well, let me explain to you. You can have oil, but if you don't know what to do with it, how is that riches? How many countries in Africa can say they can refine their own oil? A lot of time you go to these countries that have oil, you take it and you have to take it overseas to be refined and used, and then sell it back to the country where you got it from. If someone else has to take your riches and go refine it to use for the things that they themselves built, invented, or created, because we need oil for what? We need for cars that we didn't invent in Africa. We need for planes. We didn't invent planes in Africa. We need for armaments, you name it, right? Other things that we did not invent. Other people invented it, and all we do is just to sell them crude oil. How is that riches? If you have to rely on someone else to buy your oil, right, and make you rich, how is that riches? It's not riches. In order for you to call yourself rich, you have to make your own intellect work. You have to invent things. You have to be able to use your own oil for the sake of your own country. For example, in the United States, they have their own oil that they sell to Americans. They have companies right here in the United States where they are digging for their own oil. They take it to the refinery, right, and get it ready for people to use. It doesn't go outside of the country. They use it for their own sake. So, for example, if other countries decide, we're not selling United States oil anymore, or when they have their own oil, that is what we call being rich intellectually, being able to produce by yourself without counting on everybody else. That is what you call rich. If your country is not able to do that, you're not able to produce your own oil, you're not able to use your own diamonds to do, whatever they do with it, gold or other natural resources, but all you have to do is to sell it to the outsiders, you're not rich. Imagine yourself, just like those other countries like Venezuela, right? Where they put sanction on them. They say, no, we don't like the government, so we're going to sanction them. You can't sell your oil anymore. So you see a country that has a lot of oil. They live on oil. Now they can't sell their oil. Everything is falling apart. The currency fell apart and so on. You name it. You see how they can punish you with all your riches? So if someone else has to control you and decide How you become rich? Because of the fact that you are only relying on export and you cannot use your own brain to function and create your own stuff. You are not rich, you're poor. It doesn't matter the amount of natural resources you think you have, you are poor. Your country is poor. Bottom line, what is it that we produce in Africa? That is the question we need to ask ourselves. Why can't we use our own natural resources to produce things? And we are the richest continent on earth. We always say this. But when we say this, we rely on the fact that everybody else is going to come and pick and buy our stuff. Right? That's what we rely on. That's not riches. You don't know what to do with your own natural resources. It is not riches. You're poor mentally. You're poor intellectually. Now, you have people who go to school. They go to university, and all they think about in Africa is, when I come out of school, I'm going to work for the government. You have the opportunity to be educated, and all you think about is that when you come out, you're going to work for the government, or you're going to work for this company, or that. That's not why education is there. Education is for you to become an entrepreneur, for you to use your intellect. There are other people out there who are inventing stuff. For example, today we are using the internet. How many people have asked themselves the question, who came up with the internet? They are human beings. They're not aliens. The people who invented planes, cars, cell phones, you name it. All these things that we are using today, right? And we are taking for granted. They are not aliens. They are human beings like us. All they did is to use their head. So for us in Africa, right, we see things completely different, right? For us is that, hey, if I go to school, then I have to work for a big company. We don't think if I go to school, I can be able to use that intelligence that I'm going to get, that education, to try to make something, to invent something, to present to the world. Hey, look, this is my invention. This is my company. This is my production. This is what I did because of the education that I received. Someone else, right, is smart enough to come and start Facebook, for example, Google, YouTube, right, for people to communicate, right, exchange, and have the freedom of speech and all of that. All we do is to come on Facebook and insult other people. Think about it for yourself, right? This is what your intelligence is there for. You're not thinking, let me come up with a competition to Facebook. Right? Let me come up with something that will compete against YouTube. No, you're not thinking that way. Every single time you're on social media, right? Every single time you're there is to insult people, criticize other people's stuff. You have nothing positive to say. And if they say you are poor, right, you get angry. Oh no, Africa is not poor. We are rich. We have this and this. So you think because a small amount of people have money that they are throwing away, not knowing what to do with it, means it's riches? Come on, let us be honest. Riches begin with your intellect. The art to put your intellect to work. The art to think. When you get out of school, for example, university or so, and there are people who don't go to school and they're still able to do great things. For example, we know Bill Gates did not finish college. He dropped out of college. Today he's a billionaire, right? There's a lot of them out there where he had his own invention. He had Microsoft. And he became successful. For those of you who go to school, right, and you get that education, you get out of the university, you have your bachelor's, master's, or doctorate, or whatever, right? In your head, it should be, okay, I'm going to look for a job temporarily. However, I must be able to be an entrepreneur. I must come up with my own company. I must come up with something on my own that will sustain me and that will keep my brain working, keep my intellect at work. The difference between us and animals, which we call brutes, because all of us are animals. An animal is a being who's composed of a soul and a body. Animals, dogs, and all that, they have souls and body, but what they don't have is spirit. And we have spirit. So the difference between us and animals is there's no spirit. The spirit that we have is what we also call the intellect. Your conscience is what makes you think beyond just what you see. That is what makes people invent planes. You never ask yourself the question, how can someone make a plane, something this big, be able to fly? It is the art of the intellect, the art of thinking, putting your intellect at work. That's what it's all about. Not going around criticizing, talking bad about it, everybody else. That's all people. This is what a lot of people in these third world countries are doing. And this is exactly why they are poor. Because the only time they use their brain is for something negative. Not everybody. I have to say, not everybody, right? But the result of poverty is the lack of positive work, lack of positive thinking, lack of positive doings. That's what it is. Put your intellect at work and people will not call you poor. Money is only paper. There must be a brain behind money, a talent behind that money for that money to have value. So the fact that people are throwing money away, whether in nightclub, buying cars and things that other people invented, not us African, but other people invented, funding, right? Other people's company. The very fact that we're doing that does not make us rich, right? It shows that all we are is materialistic and we are not using our brain for something bigger, right? Positive, more where we can contribute, right? With everybody else, other countries on developing the world. So if in your brain you're not able to do that, you're not able to sit and think, use your education and say, you know what, I didn't go to school for nothing. I didn't go to school to wait to try to work for the government or this company. No, I went to school to be an entrepreneur, right? A thinker, a worker, right? I'm intellectual. I can do things. If you're not able to think that way, you are poor. If your country, majority of people in your country are not able to come up with invention, they're not able to use their own natural wealth without counting on outsiders to buy them, if they're not able to do that, your country is poor. That's what we call poverty. That is the reason number one. Number two, why is it that we call third world country poor countries, including Africa? Is because of the type of sicknesses that we still have, such as malaria, things like, these diseases of dirt, right? Sanitation problems. When you are in countries like Africa and people are constantly having malaria, it is because of sanitation problems. These type of diseases have already been resolved in Western countries. You don't hear about malaria when you go to Europe, United States and all these other countries because they've been able to, control the problem of malaria. But you see these things in Africa exactly because we do not respect nature. We don't know how to be cleaner. When you see someone walking down the street and he wants to urinate, stand on the street and is urinating on the street, right? That is a lack of respect of your own countries, of people around you. And this attracting diseases. So you have mosquitoes, right? Who are, standing on your peas and all these other dirt and coming and bite you. So getting all these bacteria and viruses and bite you with it and you get sick. It's because you are the cause of that type of problem. You're the cause of these diseases. There are diseases in Africa that have been resolved in other countries, right? But if we're not able to resolve these diseases, that shows poverty. We have to be able to have clean streets. And it starts with us. We're not waiting for government to do that. The government is not watching you when you get out of your house and stand in front of your house and pee on the street. Government is not there. You should be able to think for yourself and say, look, you know what? Is it a good thing for me to pee on the street like this? You look at it as it's nothing. But it brings diseases. When you do it, somebody else comes and does it. Many other people are doing it. You have 1 million people doing it. You see what it's causing. Pollution to the air. This pollution is bringing what? It's bringing the type of viruses that cause sanitation problems. And they come back, these viruses come back to you and give you all these different diseases. Healthcare. The lack of proper healthcare is poverty. So do you still have malaria in your country when other countries have resolved that problem? If you say yes, then your country is a poor country because malaria shows that The country's dirty. That's just what it shows. People are urinating all over the place, throwing things all over the place, and not having respect for their country. For example, in the United States, even when the streets are empty, nobody's on the street, you cannot even have the courage to urinate on the street. Why? Because of the way the country is built and respected. People respect their country so much. Right? If you get caught, you're gonna get a ticket. You have to pay that ticket. And you get caught many times, you may even go to jail for doing that. Right? And people, right? See, we go to Africa, right? And we do that there, and then when we come here, we know we're not supposed to do that here. We need to respect our own countries. And when you have strangers, when you have these events, like, we had an event in Cameroon where people came for football, right? And you have people coming into your country and seeing the way your country is, right? Where you can just do whatever you want to do, throw things on the road and do things what you want to do. I mean, they're looking at you like, okay, well, we know why you guys are poor. We know why you guys are constantly sick. Because you have no respect for your country. You have no respect for other people around you. So healthcare, if you don't have proper healthcare that can bring you a better lifestyle, that means your country, your continent is poor. Number 3, right? The third reason why they will say your country is poor is the way the government works. Who is influencing your government, right? Is your government free to do whatever they want to do, right? Lack of employment, for example, right? How many jobs your country is producing? How many people are unemployed, right? In African countries, so many people are unemployed that it's even difficult to tell, right? It's difficult to take a percentage. People are trying to give percentage so that they can take it to world organization like the United Nations and then try to say, hey, look at all this country and all of that. They try to put some percentage there, but the truth is that the numbers are not even close, because the government system to monitor people, right, to know the amount of people who don't have work, that government system itself is not working. So you're not going to be able to come up with good numbers to try to show, the lack of employment in your country. And then when you have people working, right, they work without contracts, employers are not properly paying people, right, and people are, because they're not paid correctly, they are, constantly in problems. They have bad attitudes and things like that. I'm gonna give you an example of what I'm talking about. So you go into a restaurant. I was in one African country. I went into a restaurant and I see a lot of these restaurants, right? Women who are serving in these restaurants are mean, just with a bad attitude, man. You come into a restaurant, you ask for food, you have to see the way they are answering to you. Like, come on, man. And you live in other countries like Western countries where people are really nice and all that, so it's kind of difficult. You understand, like, okay, well, but you have to understand one thing, right? You yourself, who's serving people in the restaurant, right? You probably haven't gotten paid, right? They didn't pay you, and you are coming there with a bad attitude. Somebody's asking you, oh, can you serve me this food? And you're there, just showing that you have problems, right? You are messing up your own chances. See, poverty, right? Poor intellect. Because you are upset because you probably didn't get paid. That's probably why you're upset, or you probably have family problems. And you are coming into a public place where people are gonna, come, and you are mean. You don't know who you can meet. You don't know who can change your life. There are people, right? I've heard stories in a country before where a millionaire married a restaurant server because he has been going to this restaurant for 2 years and saw how well this woman comported herself, even under stress. This man will go drink coffee every morning in this place. He will read his newspaper. For 2 years, he was observing this woman and fell in love with her, married her, a millionaire. And this woman today is a millionaire, and she owned restaurants. And she was only a servant. Why? Because of the way she comported herself in front of people. And someone saw her. You have no excuse. Oh, I'm not being paid well in this place. It doesn't give you the reason to be mean with people. It is stopping your own chances of meeting someone who can get you out of your struggles. And you have your bosses, right? These people who have companies, who have these restaurants, they're not paying people well. In the United States, for example, if they say they have to pay you every 15th and every last day of the month, whether it's the 30th or the 31st, right? They will pay you on that day. If they cannot pay you on that day, they will pay you the day before that. If the 15th or the 30th or the 31st fall on a weekend, they will pay you on a Friday. They pay you before. Because it's a contract. If you pay someone, right, if someone who's supposed to get paid on the 15th, you pay them on the 16th or 17th, the person can sue you. So when you go to a country where the government doesn't work, right, the system doesn't work, when you go to a country like that, what would happen? What will happen? These bosses who own these restaurants, stuff like that, they will take advantage of your situation. You don't have a contract with them, or even when you have a contract, you don't know how to read your own contract. You don't know how to pursue justice, to defend yourself. You go and ask for your salary and they tell, oh, well, we didn't get money yet. We'll pay you next week or next month. You've been in that job 2-3 months without getting paid, and you're still there. You're working. They are abusing you because you yourself, you are not smart. And they themselves are just as unintelligent as you. These people are abusing people, right? They have money. They're going to lie to you that they don't have money. They have money. They don't want to pay you, right? Because they themselves are not working their intellect. They are poor mentally. Because someone who is rich intellectually knows to treat his employees well. He knows not to insult his employees. He knows not to maltreat his employees. He knows that he needs to pay his employees on time if he wants good service in his business. But in Africa, it's the total opposite. You know, your bosses, owners of restaurants and other companies are abusing employees and do whatever they want to do because they know that there is a serious problem of intellectual poverty. Serious problem. Those are the 3 reasons why we say that Africa is a poor continent. Riches starts in your intellect. This is where it starts. Before getting to material things. You first have to be rich in your mind, in your intellect, in your conscience, in your spirit. Spiritual riches. Not in the sense of religion, no. In the sense of intellectual riches. This is where it starts. And when you're rich intellectually, we know it by the product that you are offering to the world. Today we can say the United States is the most powerful country in the world, not because they have a lot of natural resources. No, it's because of how they were able to use their intellect to develop. I hope this video helps someone. Thank you very much for watching my videos. Like I always say, I'm no preacher. I am simply a philosopher.